Welcome. Hello, everyone. I am absolutely so honored to be able to take today and be with you for this very special Psoas release class that we're going to be doing today. So, as I said in our warm up, that this is a portion of a larger workshop that I offer called the Psoas Release Technique, Psoas Release workshop, which is called the Muscle of the Mind and Soul and Spirit. I'm going to talk briefly a little bit about the muscle and about its connection to our nervous system, and then we're going to get right into the practice. But I think it's important to have a little bit of background so that we're just kind of connecting to that space in our body today. So the psoas muscle is a muscle that connects our upper body to our lower body. It's a large muscle that connects to the bottom of the ribs down to the lower trochanter in the femur. And it runs right through our pelvic area. Anterior to our pelvis, and it connects to a larger muscle group called the iliopsoas, so the iliac muscle that's along the hip and pelvis area. Based on its location, it's very intricately connected to our diaphragm. So because of where it's located, our diaphragm runs in front and can be easily affected by increased breathing, nervous system activation, and a whole bunch of nerves kind of run through that area. So anytime we're in a heightened space, the psoas is certainly going to be affected by that because our breathing will change, our nervous system will send out some hormones to the body to say, hey, if we're in a case of situation of danger, it is that fight or flight muscle. So it's that active muscle. That muscle is going to say, hey, I'm not safe here. I need to get myself out and I need to get myself to safety. So it's that physical muscle that allows us to kind of leave a situation that doesn't feel safe. I'm talking so briefly and so quickly about this, but because we go into so much detail during the workshop, but that's generally one of the main functions. And back in the day when we were kind of being chased by bears and things like that while we were in hunter-gatherer mode, it was that muscle that elicited that fight, flight, or freeze response. So today we're going to be exploring a yoga practice today that is going to be really inviting a sense of opening into that space. So when we experience trauma or a lot of stress, we as humans, as well as animals too, so we'll be practicing a technique later at the end called the psoas shake, and which was premised on a physical release or stress release that is elicited in animals. And this particular, whenever we experience stress or situations of stress, and we do not have the ability to release that stress, it gets stored in the body. You've ever read the book, The Body Keeps the Score? It is a book that discusses that traumas, stressors, different areas of our body hold on to that, even at a cellular level. And now there's so much research that's going on to show how it can even be multi-generational. So what we're going to be focusing on today is moving in a very gentle practice. We're going to be holding some of our poses a little longer than we normally would in the invitation to release any stress that we might have within the psoas muscle. And a lot of times when we've experienced stress or we've experienced trauma, it does and can be stored in this area. Even not from a stress standpoint, maybe if we're sitting for long periods of time, or especially with this pandemic, working from home, maybe traveling in cars for long distances, we may create a lot of tension and tightness into this area. So that too is what we're going to help facilitate releasing today. So it's going to be important you have yoga blocks. If you have a bolster, you can definitely have that. If you don't have a bolster, don't worry about it. We can use our yoga blocks today. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and we're going to set ourselves comfortably on our mats on our backs. So whenever you're ready, we're going to come down onto the floor and we're going to begin right away in constructive rest pose. And constructive rest pose, although a very simple pose, it's an extremely effective pose to help release and relax the psoas muscle and the hip flexor complex. So constructive rest pose, feet are going to be maybe as wide as the mat, and it's really going to depend on your legs. And we're going to just go ahead and drop the knees towards center. So perhaps you need to pull your feet in a little closer, maybe a little wider. It really depends on sometimes the length of our legs. And today I want you to think of the next 70 minutes or so as an opportunity to come home into your body. So as we bring ourselves into constructive rest pose, allow the knees to knock together. And let's just begin by inviting a sense of awareness of the body here. Maybe we start to tune in to the soles of the feet connecting down to the earth. Maybe we notice the low back, the back of the shoulders, the back of the head, the back of the arms. Maybe you're coming from a busy morning and your body is in a heightened space. So bring awareness to any tension, any sort of unease that might be kind of working its way into your mind, into your body. It's bringing awareness to it without any judgment, without any expectation, but simply an awareness. Perhaps turning your attention away from the past and away from the future and bringing yourself into the present moment in this very space. Knowing that in this space right now, you are safe. Perhaps you start to breathe into the body. Perhaps your breath starts to deepen down towards the low part of the belly. Breathing in through the nose and breathing out through the nose with a steady, slow pace. And start to become aware of our own internal rhythm of the breath. Finding our own pace. Perhaps as you exhale, you start to invite a sense of surrender, sense of letting go, a release from a physical standpoint of the body. So notice if your shoulders are still holding on to tension, maybe allow the shoulders to start dripping down. Maybe there's a sense of heaviness representing a sense of lightness. So as we're releasing the body of any tension, we're allowing ourselves to be fully present in the moment, releasing ourselves of anything that is not serving us in this very moment right now. Perhaps you start to notice a bit of heaviness in the low back. Notice if you're holding on to anything there. Allow that space to drip down towards the floor. Maybe you notice your hips. Bringing awareness to the breath into that space and allowing that space to soften. Maybe you can even envision the connection of the breath down through the tummy into the pelvic area and the breath leaving the body, inviting surrender here. Perhaps if there's any emotions, any particular moments of crisis that you're currently in or have been in, acknowledging that those moments, we can surrender into them right now. We can allow ourselves to be in the present moment and to release anything that maybe elicits a sense of unsafety, but reminding ourselves that right now we are safe in this very space within ourselves. And that we're tuning into our home base, coming back home into our body. Now, I'd like us to set an intention for our practice today. Maybe an intention, maybe a statement, perhaps a mantra, perhaps even a prayer. And then as you're ready, let's start to separate the knees gently, bringing the knees a little wider. And as you're ready, let's start to drip each knee in as we windshield wiper our feet. Just create a little bit of gentle movement into the body, moving from the pelvis, dropping the knees in and dropping the knees out. We start to invite some gentle movement here. We create a little swaying motion, finding our own range here. Tuning into the physical body, noticing any spaces that need your attention or your energy. Maybe your range of motion. You just kind of explore what feels good for you, perhaps connecting breath with movement. Continuing to keep the eyes closed if that feels comfortable and safe for you. Continuing to allow the body to release here into the mat. And let's go ahead and allow the knees to fall over to one side and then the other one last time. And then let us bring our knees back in towards center, toe heeling the feet so that the feet come and they are in a hip distance position. From here, we're going to go into our first hip release. And we're going to begin with the right leg. And you can keep the left knee bent, left foot rested down to the floor, or if it feels better for you, you can extend the left leg. If it feels better on your back to keep the knees bent, please do. From here, we're going to allow the back of the arms to rest down, chest is open. And we're going to begin by sliding our right heel down and long. So making it way up, press down all the way to the base of the mat. So sliding that heel out, opening the foot out so that the arch of the foot is resting up towards the sky and the outer edges of the foot is resting along the floor. And we're going to pull the heel in, keeping the knee wide, drawing the heel in towards our center, and then bringing the knee back in and placing the right foot, down onto the floor. So slide the right foot long. It might stick along the mat. That's okay. Lengthen the leg nice and long, open so that the arch is up towards the sky. And we're going to slide the right foot all the way along back towards our center. Draw the right knee back towards the sky. And we're just going to slide here a couple more times. I want you just to work at your own perfect pace. Sliding gently, opening up the hip, pressing the knee, sliding the foot down, and just allowing for a gentle, I don't want to say it's quite a figure eight motion, but a little bit of an opening and closing of the hip. And as you do so, maybe you notice any sort of sensation through the hip here. Try to soften through that space. Simply look at it with a sense of curiosity and non-judgment. Perhaps one more. And then whenever you're ready, we'll make our way back with our knees bent, right foot is down onto the floor. And then we're going to reverse that direction. So this time we're going to open the right knee out to the right side, finding our right foot on the outer edges, and then slide the foot out wide and long down towards the base of the mat. And as you extend that leg out long, arch of the foot remains towards the sky, then turn the toes up, heel into the ground, and then slide the heel back to our home base. So opening up to the right, outer edge of the foot, rest to the floor, knee is open, extend the leg out, keeping that arch towards the sky, extending out long, turning the toes up to the sky, and then pulling the heel in. Kind of reversing the direction here. We'll do maybe about 4 more. Maybe we just notice, are we holding on to any tension here? Is there anything that we're feeling from a physical standpoint in this direction that maybe we didn't feel in the first direction? Try to ease into the space. Maybe you need to modify and maybe open up a little less or open up a little more. And today's practice is really about inviting gentle, soft movement into the body. Perhaps the next time you make your way back to base, go ahead and knock the knees together and just take a moment of pause. Perhaps widening the feet, coming back into constructive rest pose. And let's take about 5 breaths here. And I just want you to bring some awareness to that right hip. Notice if there's any tension there. Notice anything that may be welling up. Try to breathe down deep to the belly, inviting that diaphragmatic breath. Continue to release through the shoulders and the eyes and the face. And then whenever you're ready, let's go ahead and separate the knees, toe heel the feet back so that they're hip distance apart. And let's do the exact same thing on the opposite side. Again, you can extend the right leg long if that feels comfortable for your back. If you're taking care of your back, keep your knee bent, keep your foot flat to the floor. From here, we're going to slide the left leg long. Again, extending the leg to the base of the mat. Opening towards the left side, gliding the outer edge of the left foot all the way up towards center, keeping that right hip connected down to the floor. And then draw the knee back, the left foot flat to the floor. And just kind of sliding long. If you're wearing socks, it might be an idea to take the socks off, as it might kind of slide the sock off your foot. And just gently coordinate the movement with the breath here, seeking a sense of ease and release, a sense of surrender of the movement. Perhaps after we'll do one more, we'll meet back at base. And just taking your own time to make your way back to center. And from here, feet are grounded down to the earth. Let's reverse our direction, take the left knee out, anchor into that right hip, slide the left leg out long, outer edge of the foot, toes to the sky, heel to the ground. Slide the heel back in towards center. As you're moving, we're breathing deep to the belly, keeping a sense of softness in the back of the body. Maybe you can even notice the breath as you breathe in with the rib cage pressing down into the mat. Wonderful. Maybe one more. Beautiful. And wherever you're at, whenever you're ready, come back through base and we'll meet back in our constructive rest pose one last time. Knees together, feet wide. And just take a moment here to tune in to how the low back feels, how the hips feel. Notice how even your upper body, your throat, and your jaw feel. Perhaps you can invite a little bit of heaviness into the low back and just allow for the dripping of the low back to just melt and spread into the mat beneath you. Even releasing the heart space, allowing the clavicles to remain wide. Maybe your gaze is open and soft. Maybe your eyes are still closed. Let's take 2 more deep diaphragmatic breaths here, breathing into the belly. And perhaps you even invite a little release, a sigh out of the mouth. And as you breathe out, invite a little more surrender into the body, a little more connection. And then at your own pace, we'll start to separate the knees and toe heel the feet so that they're back through center. And next, we're going to move into our supported bridge. So you can use a yoga bolster, you can use a yoga block, whatever feels comfortable for you. I particularly like for this to use my bolster. It's a little softer. However, if you don't have one, it's no problem. So feet are going to be hip distance apart. And as we're going to lift our pelvis, I want you to make sure that you're really energized through the heels and energized through the glutes. Keep the abdominals slightly drawn in so you keep everything nice and stable and supported. And then you can slide your bolster directly underneath your sacrum. Maybe if you're using yoga blocks, you may need to take some time just to kind of get yourself settled in. I quite like to take the yoga block at its lowest marker or height, and that kind of feels a little bit wider and a little bit more accessible for my low back. Now, once you've settled in here, we're going to find ourselves in our supported bridge pose. And let's just take a few breaths here to settle into this spot, releasing the hips, allowing the low back to just find its space here, making adjustments in the upper body, whatever feels right for you. Wonderful. And then from here, we're going to go ahead and take our left knee in towards our chest. Perhaps going ahead and drawing the left knee in Maybe interlacing the fingers in the front of the knee or setting the hands behind the thigh. Depends on what feels best for you. And from here, we can go ahead and lift our right leg up to the sky. Then from here, go ahead and extend that right leg long. And we're going to set that right leg all the way down to the floor. Now, if that leg feeling completely extended does not feel comfortable, does not feel accessible, feel free to bend your knee and just let your heel rest down to the ground. And here we're opening up really nice and deeply into the hip flexors, the psoas, allowing the hip to open. And if at any point this starts to feel like it's too much, draw the knee in, perhaps bend the foot, bend the leg. And we're going to hold here for about a minute. And with each exhale, I'd like you to imagine just releasing that right hip down. Maybe even drawing your breath into that space. If your mind is starting to wander, the chitti vritti, the monkey mind, the turnings of the mind, start to pull you away from this present moment. Let's turn back to our breath and find your rhythm. Tuning into the purity of the breath entering and leaving the body. Now, depending on how this feels for you, we can go ahead and take our right arm above our head. And this may feel accessible for some. And we can go ahead and set that right foot down to the floor, but keep, the left leg down to the floor, keeping the left knee bent. And either keeping just this opening of the arm directly above our head, you can even cactus your arm if that feels better for your shoulder. If nothing works for that shoulder, just go ahead and let that hand rest at the side, especially if you've got any sort of pinching. We want to make sure it's comfortable. Now from here, if you'd like to, we can go into a gentle lateral bend here. Maybe even take the right foot a couple of inches over to the left. And as we find this lateral bend, we're directly inviting an opening of the psoas muscle here. Imagining the psoas running from that base of that T12 all the way down to our lower trochanter. I think I said the bottom of the rib cage, but it connects to our T12. All the way to our lumbar 5, and then all the way down in front. And as you're opening up the side of the body here, try to relax into the shoulders, relax into the eyes. Breathing into the right side of the body. Really trying to calm the nervous system down here. Just inviting a sense of quiet and stillness into the body. Sort of settling in. And take another 5 more breaths. Maybe you explore coming a little deeper into the side bend if it feels accessible. Remembering that this is your practice. This is your expression of the poses. And then as you're ready, we'll slowly start to make our way back in towards center. And then from here, let's slowly draw the right foot back to base and draw the right knee in towards our chest. Interlacing the fingers, setting them in front of the knee. Releasing the hip, noticing anything that might be pulling. Try to soften that space out. Perhaps extending the left leg long up towards the sun. Setting the sacrum down and creating that firm foundation, that grounding beneath you. And then from here, taking the left leg long as if you're trying to reach right to the base of your mat, opening up the hip, allowing for an opening to be invited into the front of the body here. Softening the upper body as you hold on to that right leg. Breathing into the left space. Maybe you notice a subtle difference from one side to the other. Perhaps you need to bend the knee. Allow for a softness in the back of the body, back of the throat, back of the eyes. And as we hold here for another 20 odd seconds or so, continue to breathe in through the nose, deepening that breath. Surrendering, letting go, and being present with the current space. Perhaps we continue to rest the knee of the right leg in towards our heart, or perhaps you set the right foot down to the floor with the right knee bent. Extending the left arm up overhead, should that feel comfortable. And then perhaps exploring a little gentle side bend towards the right side of the body. Perhaps taking the left foot towards the right side of the mat. And as we're here, we're keeping our pelvis really grounded into the block or into the bolster. We're not turning the pelvis towards the right. We're just gently opening up the psoas here. Finding a lateral bend. Breathing into the rib cage. If you had to imagine being between a sheet here and the floor, you'd be just keeping your body nice and flat here and opening up to the right side of the mat. With this idea of expanding and surrendering to the breath. Now let us take another 4 more deep breaths here. Holding space for yourself. And then at your own perfect pace, start to come back to base. Release the arm to the side. Bend into the left knee. Set both feet down to the floor. Now we're going to move into some flowing bridges here. So I like to take a block in my hands and set my hands on the outer edges of the block. However, this is really optional to you. If you want to, you can also just allow the arms to flow overhead as we flow into our bridges. And if perhaps bringing the arms and moving into a flow with the arms and the torso does not feel right, simply go into a supported bridge and extend the arms overhead. We're going to get into the upper part of the psoas here as we reach the arms overhead. So as you're ready, either press into the heels, engage with the glutes, and start to lift into a bridge, opening up with the arms overhead. And then exhale, allow the body to rest back down onto the block or to the bolster. And just flowing here with your breath, energizing through the glutes, extending the arms overhead. Again, finding the range of motion that works for you. Wonderful. I want you to imagine that as you're energizing through the heels and the glutes, you're lifting your pelvis and opening up the whole front of the body. Allowing for your heart space to shine. Allowing for the back of the body to invite a little bit of strength into the back of the body. Finding a nice, beautiful flow here. Beautiful. And let's do 2 more. And then whenever you're ready, go ahead and set your sacrum back down, set your block off to the side. And from here, we're going to draw both knees in towards our chest. Giving ourselves a little hug here, extending out through the low back, tailbone down. And perhaps draw the knees into a little gentle rotation here. So just opening and closing through the hips, creating a little bit of gentle movement here. Maybe even keep the big toes together. Maybe we reverse the direction, opposite way. And just noticing how it feels. Maybe it felt one way in one direction, feels another way in another direction. All is beautiful. And the next time you find your knees coming in towards your heart, go ahead and bring those knees in. Give yourself one more hug. And then as you're ready, we're going to go ahead and extend our right leg long, lengthening towards the base of the mat. And then our left leg. Now this can feel quite intense for some, so I want you to explore whether you need to bend your knees. And we're going to open up the whole front of the pelvic area here. Try to soften through the upper body, soften through the throat. And you can even explore extending the arms overhead and lengthening even further. And this is really optional here. You can cactus your arms, you can tee your arms if that feels good. Maybe if extending the legs completely long feels like it's just too much, bend to your knees a little bit, set your feet down. Or maybe go back to one side and then the other. And as you're here, we're going to rest here for about a minute. Each time exploring your breath as an opportunity to release. Notice what's happening in the hips here. Notice where you are emotionally. Surrender the low back. Even let the ankles drift off to the side. Try not to hold on to any need to keep the body tensioned. And let's hold on here for another 3 more breaths. Wonderful. And just as carefully as we went in, let's start to move the arms out to the side, bringing them back towards the side of our body, and then slowly start to bring the feet in, resting the feet down, hip distance apart. And from here, let's go ahead and press into our heels, and we're going to lift our sacrum and reset our sacrum back to the floor. So we'll just take that bolster or yoga block and just shift it off to the side. Make sure it's kind of far enough away that you won't bang into it. And from here, bring yourself back to the floor, resetting your sacrum down directly to the earth. Bringing the knees in and maybe rocking your body side to side, spreading the low back into the floor. Just allowing yourself to rock your body side to side, massaging the spine, massaging the shoulders, the back of the head. Wonderful. And then from here, we'll go ahead and come back to base. Set your right foot down to the floor and go ahead and cross your left ankle over your right. Now from here, we're going to go into our supine pigeon. Now the left leg can just gently open with the left hand if you'd like to do that, especially if you feel like you just need a little guiding there, not a forceful opening, gently opening up the hip. You can always draw your right thigh in towards your center, interlacing the fingers, the back of the thigh. And I like to sometimes guide my leg open a little bit more with that same side of my elbow. If bringing the thigh up towards your heart or your chest doesn't feel right for you today, you can always set your foot down on a yoga block and just invite a little bit of opening, but without having to force that thigh in towards center. Try to relax in through the shoulders. Try to find a little bit of space for the lumbar area to reach down. Just allowing the left hip to open here. Notice any sensations running through the hip, maybe through the glute. Breathing into the space. And as we're holding these a little longer than we would normally in a class, we're allowing our brain the opportunity to send that message to the muscle to just let go. Let go of anything you're holding on to. Let go of those emotions that are not serving us. Maybe those thoughts, maybe past situations. Maybe our muscles just tight and we want to just invite that sweet surrender. And then whenever you're ready, go ahead and slowly draw the right foot down to the floor. Unwind your left from your right. Maybe gently swivel the knees side to side, sending our body that message that it's okay. Allow for some flow. Beautiful. And then whenever you're ready, we'll make our way back towards center. Maybe inviting the right ankle towards the left knee, opening up in that figure four. Again, maybe just allowing ourselves the opportunity to decide for ourselves, does this feel right? Is this where I want to be? Do I need to go in a little deeper? Do I need to stay here? Knowing that whatever decision you make, it's the right one for you. So perhaps you rest your left foot down and just allow that right knee to open. Perhaps you explore pulling your left thigh in towards your heart, a gentle opening of the right hip. Notice that the quality of the breath has changed. Notice if your rhythm is still deep to the belly. If your mind is wandering, take your attention back to the texture of the breath entering and leaving the body. Let's take a deep breath, and on your exhale, just sigh it out and see if I can release the right hip a little more. And then whenever you're ready, set your left foot down. Unwind your right from your left and gently sway the knees one more time, right to left, left to right. It's a real gentle flow here. Now we're gonna make our way into all fours. So when you're ready, you roll onto your favorite side and just press yourself up through your top arm. Take your time. We've been on our back for a while now, so just bring yourself up slowly. And if we're taking care of our knees today, feel free to place a blanket underneath the knees. We'll slowly bring ourselves into our all fours, our tabletop position. And from here, I'd like us to take our yoga block and set it directly in between the inner thighs, just to bring some awareness to the inner thighs and to the pelvic floor. And as we find ourselves in our tabletop, back is long, head is stacked up onto the rest of the spine, shoulder blades are rolled back and down, energized through the hands. Working our way into our cat-cow, gentle squeezing of the block between the inner thighs, start to arch the low back, open up the heart as you breathe in. Exhale, pull the belly button in, round the upper body, press the hands into the floor, drop the neck, release any tension through the upper body. Pulling in through the belly. Inhale, open up the front of the body. Exhale, round the spine, gaze down to the floor. Inhale, open up. Exhale, pull it in. Maybe you're working still through your diaphragmatic breath. Perhaps you're exploring an Ujjayi breath or victorious breath. Breath through the nose. Breathing out through the nose with that constriction of the throat. I want you to invite a sense of ease through movement. Try to find a rhythm that works for you. Try to find that connection through the articulation of the spine, maybe the pressing of the hands, knees, and feet into the floor. Drawing awareness to the pelvic floor as you draw in, pulling up, engaging through the inner thighs. And just gently moving through the pelvis here, releasing any tension there. Beautiful. Let's make our way into one more cat, one more cow. Terrific. And whenever you're ready, bring ourselves back towards tabletop. Let's take the block and set it off to the side. And we're going to come into a child's pose. Knees wide, big toes together. Now you can always place a yoga block underneath your sits bones as a little lift if it feels uncomfortable to come down. Now, as we're going to ease ourselves into this child's pose, inviting opening through the hips and releasing through the low back. Maybe you want to extend the arms out long. Perhaps not. Whatever feels right for you, maybe you rest the hands closer to center with a nice big bend in the elbow. Breathing into the back of the body here, try to release the hips here. Let that be your intention for your breath here, to allow the hips to seep down, to allow any tension to release. And we're going to hold this pose for about a minute. And if at any time you feel tension in the neck, or maybe your forehead doesn't quite come down to the ground, I want you to remind you that you can always create a tower of fists to raise the earth to meet your body. Allow your shoulders to relax. Allow for the back of the body to release down and feel heavy. And as I said, this practice is about coming home within our bodies. So let this moment here be an opportunity to tune in physically, mentally, spiritually. Continue to connect into the breath here. Let's take 2 more breaths. And then whenever you're ready, we're going to gently and slowly come up into our tabletop position. And let's bring the hands underneath the shoulders and draw the knees in towards the chest. And let's just take a few hip rolls here. So knees underneath the hips, back is long, and just moving really fluidly in a figure eights shape here. Just kind of allowing some movement through the shoulders, a little lifting of the side body, kind of finding a little flow here. And then maybe you reverse the direction, kind of just exploring the other side. Pulling really into the hip joint here, so allowing the hip to kick out. You can almost imagine that ball and socket joint, just getting some really nice gentle movement here. A little bit of gentle movement through the thoracic spine, through the shoulder. Maybe the next time you make your way into your tabletop position, we stay there for a moment. And just reconnect here. Wonderful. Now let's go ahead and we're going to make our way onto our sits bones. And we're going to start getting ourselves ready for the last part of our class today, which will be our Psoas shake. Now, the Psoas shake is a technique that was created as a deep stress release technique. And it is basically the invitation to create a little bit of activation through the hip flexors. And as I walk you through it, it's going to feel a little, it can feel a little intense. It can feel very releasing and very stress relieving, but it can also drum up some emotion. So what's going to happen is we're going to come into Baddha Konasana. We're going to begin in a supported Baddha Konasana, butterfly pose. So I'm going to use both of my blocks on either side of my knees. And we're going to begin there. And as I'm going to walk you through the Psoas shake technique, I'm going to ask that you release your knees and draw them up about an inch, about every minute for about 6 minutes. And you're going to hold your knees in that shape. And then I'll ask every minute after that to bring your knees in a little closer, about an inch. So it's like your knees are open and then they're going to slowly, slowly, slowly come in. During that time, it can feel a lot of activation in the muscle. It may feel like you're shaking. It may feel like you want to take flight. I can assure you, you are not going to fly away, but it will feel quite an activation in the muscle. When we're done, I'm going to tell you to slowly draw your knees together. And then I'm going to ask that you completely rest in Shavasana. So try to make sure you have everything you need next to you so that you're nice and comfortable. I'm going to begin in Baddha Konasana with you, and then I'm going to come into a seated position and guide you through our Psoas shake. So just so you know, I won't be doing it with you because I'd like to make sure the time is, I don't go over the 6 minutes to be in this position because it can be quite a lot. So let's go ahead and first make our way down to the floor. Make sure you have everything you need nearby. And we're going to make our way into our butterfly pose, and we're going to be here for approximately a minute. So however you want to come into your butterfly pose, if you want to bring your blocks at its highest or lowest mark, whatever feels the most restorative in nature. So try to make sure that you're not straining here, that you're not creating any tension through the hips here. Maybe you allow your arms to rest at your sides. And we're going to just begin by allowing ourselves to fully relax into this space. Allow your eyes to soften and quiet. Maybe you even close your eyes. And let there be a sense of surrender from the crown of your head all the way down to the tip of your toe. Allow your breath to continue to remain deep to the belly. Feel free to sigh out a few times to release the body of any tension or any sort of holding on. Maybe you even repeat to yourself, let go. As you rest here for another 20 odd seconds or so. Find a softness in the face. Find a softness at your wisdom center, right between the eyes, our Ajna chakra. And I'd like you to tune in to that inner wonder, that inner self that is safe, all-knowing, and divine. Let us take one more deep breath to the belly and a big sigh out as a real final release here of the breath. And as you're ready, we're going to begin our first lift. So draw the knees and lift them up about an inch away from the block. Soles of the feet stay connected. The clavicles remain wide. The face soft. The mind free of any sort of outer stirring or outer pulling of your attention away from where you are right now. Holding here, breathing, surrendering to this space. Knowing that at any time, should you need to stop or take a break, please do. This is your practice. And then as you're ready, I'd like you to draw the knees and lift them up another inch. Continuing to keep the feet connected. Continuing to breathe in. Let's release any labels, any comments internally that we might be saying to ourselves of how this feels. Just allow yourself to be with this in this moment. Maybe you start to notice the physical sensation. Maybe you notice a little welling up of emotion. Maybe you notice just the quiet stillness. When you're ready, go ahead and bring your knees in one more inch closer. Continuing to breathe in. Maybe you imagine the words of breathe in stillness. And you imagine the words coming out of your mind as breathe out tension. Now let's go ahead and draw our knees in one more inch closer. Remembering that if at any time during your practice right now, this starts to feel like it's too much, perhaps emotions start to well up, please allow yourself the gift of that release. Let's go ahead and draw our knees one more inch closer. Continue to breathe into the diaphragm, down to the belly. Continue to surrender to what is. Recognizing the foundation beneath you is keeping you safe, grounded, connected. Now, as we near our last minute, we're going to draw our knees one last time a little closer. Perhaps you feel a movement of the legs. Let it happen. Let it release. Nearing our last 10 seconds. Let us slowly draw the knees towards center. Really slowly and lovingly, and with as much compassion as one can create. Allow the knees to knock together in constructive rest pose for just a few breaths. And then whenever you're ready, let us go into our Shavasana. Allow yourself to completely surrender from head to toe. Allow the ankles to drift to the side. Allow the wrists and the fingers, the back of the head to completely melt and release of any tension. Perhaps finding a cozy spot, placing a blanket on top or a pillow underneath the head. Making it as comfortable for you as possible. And just observe your body, your mind. Observe how you're feeling. Observe your breath. Now, before we start to reawaken our body, let us begin to deepen our breath and sigh the breath out of the mouth. Perhaps you start to invite some movement through the fingers and the toes. And if your body is calling for a little more time here, please, I encourage you to stay where you are. Don't feel any need to move your body. If you want to, you can create some movement in the body gently. And whenever you're ready, if it feels comfortable for you, feel free to roll onto your favorite side. Just as an opportunity to gently transition. Again, it's totally up to you. Just taking a moment of pause to recognize your feeling within the body, within the mind, a little stillness here. A little moment of pause from where we were to where we're going. Perhaps you keep your eyes closed as we gently start to take the top arm and press ourselves up into Sukhasana, coming into our easy seated pose. Just allowing for that awareness from within to remain centered and not distracted by anything on the outer side. Bringing our hands to heart center in Anjali Mudra. Hands pressing together, creating a sense of oneness, a sense of balance. And as a gentle bow of our head towards our hands, acknowledging the divine that lives within us all. Reminding ourselves that how we feel now, we can take on or off the mat. May your heart always stay warm, and may your smile always stay broad. And may the light that shines in me see and honor the light that shines in you. Namaste. Thank you for coming on this journey with me today. It's, as always, an absolute honor to be able to practice with you. I hope you got as much as you needed out of this practice. Remember that you can use this practice whenever you want. Some people ask me, how frequently can you do the Psoas release shake? I mean, I wouldn't do it every day, but you can certainly do it every other day, every other, maybe once a week, but always coming to that practice with that preparation before. So from my heart to yours, thank you so much, everyone. And I wish you a glorious day. Namaste.